total different show tonight for you here. What we're going to do is take the Gwenton show to a total different level. We're going to do a late night driving. That's what we're going to call it. So today we're going to look at a sensitive topic, which I done a film with BBC Three some years ago and decided to share a photo of the album, of the film, just a few days ago. And the amount of people from across the country that contacted me was unbelievable. And you're probably wondering, what was the film about? It was about Countylines. So for those of you that don't know what Countylines is, it's a new phenomenon where older people and also their peers traffic young people across the country to deal drugs. Some young people go and pick up money. Some people provide sex. Others might come down and clean the house. So there's different services for young people. But what is common is the trafficking and the grooming and the exploitation of young people. So today we're privileged to have a friend of mine. I've known her for some time, and we normally conversate over social media. And it wasn't until I posted a picture of the documentary that I done with BBC Three that she went into depths and told me about her experience. So today we're going to be speaking about, or tonight, we're going to be speaking to someone that's actually lived it. And for her protection, we're going to keep her name and identity and location safe. Because with us on the Gwenton Show, safeguarding comes first. So let's give her a call.
Hello.
Evening, sis. You good?
Yeah, good evening.
Yes. So as I said to you before, we're going to have just a gentle conversation. We're not going to say where you are, where you're calling from, or mention your name or anything like that. And just to let you know why I've thought of calling you today, the amount of feedback that I've had since I posted that flyer of the documentary that I done with BBC Three some 5 or 6 years ago clearly shows that this has affected people across the country. And me and you have been speaking about different ranges of stuff over the years. And until you actually broke it down to me, it was only then I realized the magnitude of what you've actually gone through. So we're just going to touch on some of the conversation that we had online. So if someone else is out there going through it, they could see that they're not alone. And you've managed to get out the other end to the point where the people now are apologizing because they've come to one and seen what they've done wrong. So we're going to just go back and touch on briefly, because we don't really want to take you back down that dark road of how many years ago and what actually happened.
So was that a question?
Yeah. So just feel free, because it's just a conversation.
Right, yeah.
How did it start?
Okay, so it was some time ago, over 10 years ago now, and it was in an area that it's a predominantly white area.
Okay.
that I was living in, and we didn't have gangs. It was like a seaside area. There was no gangs. So, I had never come across gangs just because of my upbringing and where I'd grown up. So it was a bit bizarre because I didn't really know that.
How did you meet them?
So what it was is these individuals were actually in this area by the seaside, and I only saw one individual, just one, and he looked really small. He was like not that taller than me. He looked young. He looked harmless-ish, you know. I thought, you know, he might be selling cannabis, like weed, you know, but I didn't know that it was actually much, much more than that, more serious than that. And he just kept saying to me, "Oh, you're so pretty." I just used to laugh it off, really, because like I said, it was quite a small area and quite safe. I used to laugh it off, and then he just used to say, "Oh, when are you going to invite me around for a cup of tea?" And you don't expect really dangerous people to just come out with something like that. Like, it just sounded innocent. And I just started talking to him a little bit, mainly because I was on my own and I was going through quite a lot in my life. I've got my own vulnerabilities, mental health, stuff like that. And I've been in the system, like I was in foster care. I've been in the system, and I was vulnerable. So, and I was very alone and isolated, which I shouldn't have been, because services know of me and they know that I should be supported, given, talking treatment, support. I shouldn't be on my own. If these organisations are doing what they're meant to do, I shouldn't be on my own. But I was, and I think I had, lack of money, like a lot of vulnerable people. And he just kept saying, "You look hungry. Let me take you for lunch." He just groomed me, basically, and befriended me. But obviously I didn't know that I was being groomed at the time. And I did invite him into my flat. That's when it all kind of started, but not straight away. It took some time. He built it up. He bought me food. He even looked in my eyes one day and said, "You look hungry. You look like you haven't eaten all day." And I actually hadn't.
Okay.
And I don't know how he knew. And then, things like that it built my trust up for him. And it was like he was kind of becoming a friend. And that was just went on for months. And then all of a sudden he came round, and it's like he was just panicking, and he wanted me to like look after some stuff that was clearly illegal. And he said, "I'm going to be going out, but I'm going to pop back. Don't let anyone in. Don't open the door to anyone." And I looked through the spy hole and saw one individual that he'd introduced me to, I think once. And I opened the door, and there was like 6 or 7 of them. And I realized that I recognized one of them and didn't realize that they were all just part of the same gang. And that's when I realized that this is a gang, like kind of, well, I didn't realize before I let them in, but they just walked in. But I realized when they got all their drugs out, they were like giving me drink, and then I don't really remember the whole thing. And I think they may have spiked my drink.
Okay.
And I remember trying to say to them before that night, "Don't come round. Like, I don't want any parties," because I was talking to one of his friends and he said that we want to come round for parties. I said, "No, I don't want no parties. I'm sitting here in my flat with 2 cats. I don't want that part. I'm older than that. I'm too old to be having parties. Yeah, I look young, I sound young, but I'm not that young. I'm not a party age." And I remember saying to him, "No." But obviously they had their own plans in their head. It didn't matter whether I said no. And they were in my flat, and they took over my flat. I had heroin in my flat. I had crack in my flat. I'd never seen drugs in my life other than cannabis, but like weed, but not, I don't abuse drugs. I don't sell drugs. I'm not part of these types of people. I used to work in makeup. It's not my thing. And I've got all these boys, like 8 or 9 of them, and I do think I was drinking, but I don't think I drank that much. But before I knew it, I just knew that there was one on top of me, and then another on top of me, and another on top of me, and they just took turns on me, basically violated me. And then it's like I feel like they kidnapped me, because every room that I was trying to go into to get away from them, there was always one of them like following me, monitoring me. And I got really angry at one point. I threw a telly at them. It was just crazy. And I managed to like escape, I think, like the next day at some point. And then I was sitting on the pavement outside, and I think I saw a police officer. I told the police officer, and I had some Christian friends that were helping me, and then the police arrested them.
Did they end up in prison?
Well, no, because I kind of dropped the charges, and they were begging me to drop the charges, and wherever I went online, they would find me and message me on Facebook, like constantly, ringing me, like bombarding me with messages, like begging me, please, drop the charges, you know. And then I think because I actually had a bath after the incident, which I know a lot of rape victims do have baths.
Yeah, so with the DNA and everything from the assault,
there was some DNA. There was some DNA of the individual that apologized to me. His DNA was there, and he was telling me when I had a conversation with him in 2019, years down the line, he was telling me, you know, the police officer was asking me what I was doing with you, that they'd found my DNA on you, this, that. He said, I told them I'm not going to discuss what I do with my girlfriend. And he just was saying to me that he feels like he ruined my life, that he was sorry, that he was sitting in a prison just thinking about how he'd ruined my life, and that he told me don't open the door, and I opened the door to all of them. And he said, why did you open it? I told you don't open the door to anyone. And he was saying to me, I guarantee you they drugged you, they spiked your drinks, because the way that you were behaving seemed like you were on something, like they'd spiked your drinks.
So because we have to think about the mental side of things as well and the trauma of it. When he apologized to you, how did you feel?
Because after that, after what they did to me, I moved away.
Okay.
I went quite far away. I lost my flat. I lost my cat.
Yeah, and this is something that people don't see, and I'm glad you're saying that, because sometimes people think when they take people's houses over and the person then loses their house, like the local authorities just give them another house. A lot of people that are on the road sleeping homeless, that people might look down at now, could have had their flats taken over just like yours.
Yeah, I was in a women's refuge, and then the refuge were very unhelpful, and I was displaying signs of PTSD, you know, like suicidal, and so they thought, we just can't give you the support that you need in this refuge. So they put me into a mental health kind of hostel for women that had a mental illness. It was like a house, like a house share. I went on to being exploited by other males in that area.
Okay.
In the area that I fled to, I went on to being exploited by other males, living basically officially as homeless, going from one refuge to a hostel for mentally unwell women to a flat which was for mentally unwell people, but the majority of people in that building were men, and they were all on drugs. So the impact that this gang had on me really it's never gone. The impact has never gone. I've gone from one place to the next, one flat to the next. It's really affected me. And it like even now, they moved me recently to this place in London, and I felt so scared because it's like near an environment.
Don't say the location.
But then I'm not going to say a location, but there are good parts of London and bad parts.
Yeah.
And I would say I'm in a bad part, which is very triggering for me, especially as some of them. Yeah, I can't say what I was going to say, it's triggering, and it could potentially not be safe for me, actually.
Well, that's something we could look at off air, because a lot of the time that was my job for 13 years, moving people around the country, and a lot of the time, moving gang members and victims of crime on lower end witness protection, and I've dealt with women and girls being exploited as well. A lot of the time, the housing, they just look for available properties. They don't risk assess the area. They don't even go out and see the area in the night or daytime. So they're just thinking, well, we've got a 1 or 2 bedroom here. Let's just move the person there, not thinking, is it going to be safe? Is it similar to where you've just moved from, and all of those ingredients? So,
they're faultless. The local authorities, they're faultless.
Yeah.
I find it quite reckless.
And
Some things should be just common sense. This year I got put into a men's hostel. It should be common sense. Don't put someone that's fled domestic abuse in a men's hostel.
yeah.
Don't put someone that's been affected by gangs in a men's hostel. And that's like common sense.
Yeah, and this is where we talk about a lot of the workers are not even trained to be in this field. So when you're going in there and seeing them, 9 out of 10 times it's a tick box exercise. And they think by just giving you somewhere to rest your head, that solved the problem.
Yeah, people are a lot more complex than that.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually got a solicitor in regards to me being put in a men's hostel, and we're looking to sue the local authority.
Okay.
And they know that. That's not a secret. They know that.
You know, I'm glad you mentioned that. Always advocate to people, get yourself some legal support. No matter what's going on in your life, immigration, housing, even your neighbor, your ex-partner, you want them to stop contacting you. Once you've got a good legal team, half of the stresses we go through in life and some of the obstacles will be removed if you've got a legal team willing to support. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, and I think I spoke to you before about that, and I think I was given a couple of names and organisations, and I did contact them at one point, and I did find them to be quite helpful. And
Okay, that's good.
I remember that. Yeah, but it's hard now, isn't it, with legal aid?
Yeah, they've cut it all the way back. So the amount of money that they used to give before to read through the paperwork and do all the research and all of that, it's stripped all the way back. So you have to actually become a paralegal to help your own legal team to fight your own case. It's a lot.
Wow, that's hard. That's a tough one. I mean, yeah. I did put my solicitor onto something because I Googled and researched my situation, and I found the same situation last year where Camden Council put a woman just like me into a men's hostel, and then she got solicitors, and it's like they were changing like the rules and regulations, and they were doing case law, and now they've kind of like started a whole campaign around women being housed unsafely and incorrectly, to the point where that these local authorities are gatekeeping to exclude vulnerable women from safe, secure housing. So it's like a whole campaign now. It's on Twitter, and my solicitor was so excited that I told her about that, and then she contacted the barrister, and yeah, so now we're trying to sue the local authority the same way that the woman did last year, because she sued, and she was successful with that.
Yeah, they've also got the Southwark judgment as well. So that means if you're fleeing domestic violence or even gang crime, because of the Southwark judgment, now a lot of local authorities have to accept someone fleeing violence to another borough. A lot of people don't know about that. And a lot of the time that becomes helpful. If the police believe that the risk to you is credible, they have to write you a letter so you could then present yourself at any local authority, which then has to take your case seriously, which before in the past, they'll just tell you, go down to the homeless unit, and then you'll be turned away or, as you said, thrown into a hostel with people that are in a worse off position or predators that's looking to prey on you. But sis, as I said, we just wanted to touch it. I'm glad that you're able to speak about it. And for me, I found writing as a therapy for me, myself. And some people do music, some people do short films. I think sometimes when we get things off our chest and problem shared is a problem halved, and throw it out into the universe, there'll be someone watching this when it comes out that felt like, you know what, I thought it was just me. And to see that you've had the strength to fight on and you're still fighting on up to today, that will help someone else that was in the dark space that you once was. Not to say that you're fully out of it, but someone is at ground one and they're feeling like, I'm on the floor, what's the point? It don't make sense. And just seeing your strength will keep that person knowing that get up tomorrow and fight again. And even if you fall back down, get up tomorrow and fight again. So if you had one thing that you could say to another young female out there that is in the place where you was once were, what advice would you give now, looking back at where we was?
I would say to ask for help. Definitely ask for help, because you cannot get through this on your own without support and help. There's absolutely no way. If I hadn't have gone to the police, God knows what would have happened. If I hadn't have gone into a women's refuge, God knows what would have happened. You need help and support.
And it's funny you say that. Sometimes you have to lose everything to save yourself. I got families every day where their children get stabbed or they get murdered, and the family are like, I'm not leaving, I got a garden. Or I'm not going to get the same house. Like, look how long I've spent decorating this house. And you have to say to them, it's either your children's life or your house. And it's embarrassing to say, but a lot of family will rather choose their house over their children's safety. And when something happens, then they're like, well, you should have protected us, to the police or the local authority, but not admitting that they had chosen their property previously over the risk. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, sis. So
put your safety first. Definitely put your safety first.
100%. Nothing comes before your safety. Never compromise your safety and your well-being for nothing or no one. And I think a lot of the time we allow our emotions sometimes to direct us from doing the right thing. And some people play on our emotions to get what they want to benefit themselves.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for this opportunity for talking to you.
No problem, sis.
Thank you.
All right, I'll call you after. Yeah, I'll wrap after I finish. Yeah.
All right then. Okay, thanks, Quentin. Okay, bye.
Bye. Yes, viewers. So as you see there, this is real life, and some people might think drug dealing is harmless. It's not harmless. Every time you sell drugs to someone, you're not only poisoning that person who's someone's child, someone's sister, someone's father. I see people drug dealing to their own dads and uncles. And when you ask them, how could you do that? You know what they turn around and say? Well, someone's going to drug deal to them. Not worrying about the ripple effect that they're causing. When you think that date raping, because this is something we have to address here, there's a lot of men that think putting things in women's drinks are okay. That woman has not consented. That man, because men are also getting date raped as well. That person has not consented. It's the same as getting someone drunk till they're legless and can't remember what has happened the next day. That is not acceptable. And it's not cool if you're hanging around with someone that believes that putting things in people's drinks is okay. You also need to check yourself, because you don't know the damage and the trauma you're causing to that person that wakes up the next day and probably looks at you and think, oh my gosh, I wouldn't even have touched you with a barge pole. How have you ended up in my bed? And all of this sending young kids across the country to take over people's houses and deal drugs. You hear about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Normally soldiers get that when they come back from war and they've killed people out there. But they was at work. Their work was to murder. Now they've come back, they're living with their family in their house. They're having to remember the faces of everyone that they've killed. That's the same feeling that someone gets after trying to get their life back together, after someone has hijacked their life, taken over their house, their freedom, everything, violated them. So for you drug dealers out there and criminals that think it's harmless, and for the parents and girlfriends and boyfriends that's living off the proceeds of this torture, to understand what damage you're doing. It doesn't stop there. Sometimes it lasts a lifetime. Think about what you're doing.
My channel is the truth. Like, subscribe, and share.